Sophia Morales adjusted her black vest and crisp white shirt in the reflection of the glass door before stepping into the Elms Golf and Country Club. The late afternoon sun stretched shadows across the immaculate lawn, golfers still scattered on the green, their laughter floating lazily with the breeze. She caught herself staring a second too long, then shook her head and went inside. This wasn't her world, not really. She was here to serve in it, glide through like she belonged while hiding the truth. A second job at night, her mother's bills piling up, the constant pressure of being the one holding everything together. She told herself the same 3 words every shift: stay calm, professional. The club's dining terrace buzzed with staff rushing to set the stage for another evening of wealth and privilege. Sophia grabbed her tray, careful with each placement of wine glasses. Her coworker, Ellie, gave her a sympathetic glance. "Jake's on edge today," Ellie muttered as she passed, balancing cutlery in both hands. Jake Morton, their manager, moved like a drill sergeant among them, his sharp eyes darting at every tiny mistake. "Big guest tonight," he said loudly, enough for all of them to hear. "No delays, no stumbles. We run this floor like clockwork." His gaze landed on Sophia, lingering a fraction too long, as if expecting her to falter. She straightened her tray and nodded. "Yes, sir." By 6:30, the terrace was gleaming. Crisp linens, polished silver, glassware catching the light of the chandeliers. Sophia inhaled, squared her shoulders, and took her position near the east side, where she had the best view of the entrance. That's when the shift in the air came, an arrival you could feel before you saw it. Brandon Hale walked in first, tall, expensively careless, his laugh louder than anyone else's. His entourage trailed behind like satellites. Clara Evans, oversized sunglasses still perched on her nose, phone in her hand already recording snippets of the evening. A pair of executives Sophia didn't recognize, their suits sharp and voices booming. And finally Ethan Cross, the quiet one, a journalist Sophia vaguely recalled seeing in a magazine profile months ago. He didn't move like the others. He scanned. Observed. Sophia steadied her breathing. Wealth always announced itself, but with Brandon Hale, it practically shoved its way into every room. She caught the way Clara angled her phone as they walked past the host stand, as though curating content mattered more than the dinner itself. Guests at nearby tables turned heads. Staff exchanged nervous looks. Jake intercepted them with a rehearsed smile. "Mr. Hale, welcome back. Your table is ready." He led them toward the prime spot on the terrace, overlooking the manicured lawns. Sophia's section. She felt her stomach clench. When they sat, Brandon didn't so much as glance at her. Sophia approached anyway, her posture impeccable, tray balanced. She greeted the table with the practiced warmth she had perfected. "Good evening. May I start you off with sparkling water or perhaps?" Clara leaned toward one of the executives, whispering just loud enough, her smirk curling. "Listen to that. Straight out of a..." She didn't finish, just laughed softly, the sound carrying across the table. The man chuckled too, not even trying to hide it. Sophia felt the sting but kept her eyes steady, her smile unmoving. She'd learned long ago that the worst thing she could do was let them see her flinch. Ethan, seated at the far end, watched quietly. His expression didn't change, but his gaze held something different than the others, not mockery, but a quiet curiosity. Sophia filed it away and kept moving. She poured the first round of water, then presented the wine list. Brandon finally looked at her, eyes sweeping over her uniform, pausing just long enough to feel invasive. He waved a hand dismissively. "We'll take the Bordeaux. The 12. "Yes, sir." Her voice didn't waver. She retrieved the bottle from the side station, careful with each movement. Years of practice had taught her that serving wine was a performance. Every gesture mattered. She placed the bottle gently, presented the label, waited for the nod. Brandon gave it with bored disinterest. As she poured, his words cut across the hum of conversation, sharp and deliberate. "Careful with the wine. Wouldn't want the help from wherever you're from to ruin it." The laughter was instant. Clara's phone camera tilted toward the table as if capturing a private joke. The executives chuckled, one of them shaking his head as though Sophia's very presence was amusing. Even a guest at a nearby table turned, lips curled in a half-smile of superiority. Sophia's hand held steady, though her chest burned. The Bordeaux swirled into the glass, smooth and unshaken, even as heat rushed to her face. Years of swallowing words, of teaching herself to endure, pressed against her ribs. But something shifted this time. She set the glass down softly in front of Brandon. Her eyes met his, not with fire, but with a calm so sharp it cut through the noise. And in a voice that carried across the terrace, steady and deliberate, she said, "I serve with respect. You speak only to be cruel." 10 words. Unshaken. The silence was immediate. Forks hovered midair. The faint hum of background conversation died out as though someone had cut a wire. Even Clara's phone stopped recording for a fraction of a second, her mouth falling open before she quickly pressed record again. Brandon froze, his smirk faltering, the arrogance in his eyes flickering into something else. Confusion, disbelief. No one spoke. The terrace, usually alive with clinks and murmurs, held its breath. Ethan Cross leaned forward, his pen still on the napkin he'd been absent-mindedly scribbling on, his eyes fixed on Sophia like he'd just witnessed something rare. Brandon broke the silence first, his chuckle awkward, forced. "Cute. The help's got a tongue." He looked to Clara, expecting her to laugh with him, but her attention was on the recording, eyes wide as though she knew she'd just caught lightning in a bottle. Jake appeared near the corner, his jaw tight, clearly having overheard. His eyes darted from Sophia to Brandon, calculating the fallout. Brandon leaned forward, his smile thin. "You're out of line." Sophia kept her posture straight, hands folded lightly against her tray. Her voice didn't rise, didn't shake. "I'm within my line, sir. You asked for respect. I've given it." For a heartbeat, the terrace seemed frozen in amber. Then Brandon let out another laugh, louder this time, trying to smother the sting with bravado. "You hear this? She thinks she's clever." He gestured to the executives, who offered nervous chuckles that didn't carry much conviction anymore. Clara lowered her phone for a second, tilting her head. "That's what. I mean, did you hear how calm she was?" Her tone was laced with surprise, not support, but the fact she'd said it at all broke something loose in the atmosphere. Ethan scribbled something on his napkin, his eyes never leaving Sophia. His silence was heavier than anyone else's words. Jake appeared suddenly, slipping between Sophia and the table. His smile was stretched too tight, his voice pitched with fake cheer. "Mr. Hale, allow me to personally handle your table from here. Sophia, the kitchen needs you." He shot her a glance, one part warning, one part plea. But Brandon wasn't done. He leaned back in his chair, sipping from the glass she had poured. "Don't bother, Jake. Let her stay. I want to see what else the help has to say." Jake's jaw flexed, but he retreated half a step. The power dynamic had shifted, and everyone could feel it. Clara raised her phone again, muttering under her breath, "This is unreal." Sophia's tray was still balanced against her side. She didn't move, didn't lower her gaze. For years, she'd rehearsed silence as her defense, but now, standing in front of Brandon Hale, she realized silence wasn't what her mother had raised her to offer. She wasn't here to win. She was here not to disappear. Brandon leaned in closer. "Where did you even learn to talk like that? You're not from here, are you?" His words dripped with false curiosity, designed to entertain his circle. Sophia inhaled once, steady, then said, "I learned to talk from the woman who raised me. And she taught me that words should lift, not cut." The words landed sharper than she expected. Brandon blinked, his smirk faltering again. Clara's phone shook in her hand as she captured the moment. Even the executives shifted uncomfortably, their laughter from earlier now an awkward silence. Jake finally stepped in again, his voice lower, strained. "Sophia. Inside. Now." She turned to obey, but not before catching Ethan's gaze. He gave the smallest nod, as though telling her she had already said enough. Inside the kitchen, the noise of clattering pans and sizzling burners swallowed her whole. Jake followed her in, his footsteps hard, his voice sharper once they were out of sight. "Do you realize who that was?" he snapped. "That's Brandon Hale. He bankrolls half this club's events. One word from him and this place could blacklist you from every venue in the state. Sophia placed the tray down, her hands finally trembling now that she was out of sight. I didn't insult him. I told him the truth. The truth doesn't matter here, Jake hissed. He rubbed his temples, muttering under his breath. You just don't get it. Across the prep line, Ellie leaned closer, whispering once Jake had stormed off. Everyone's talking about it. Out there? You could have heard a pin drop. I swear, Sophia, I've never seen anyone shut him down like that. Sophia tried to swallow the lump in her throat, but it wouldn't budge. She had always promised herself she wouldn't risk her job, not with her mother depending on her. And yet, something deep in her chest refused to regret it. Back on the terrace, Clara's fingers flew across her phone screen. Oh, this is gold, she whispered, adding a caption before hitting post. When the waitress has more backbone than a billionaire. The video uploaded in seconds. Notifications pinged immediately, hearts, comments, retweets. Clara grinned, already imagining the viral traction. This is going to blow up, she muttered, half to herself. Ethan, meanwhile, leaned back in his chair. He had captured the words in his notebook, I serve with respect. You speak only to be cruel. He studied them as if weighing their weight against the entire evening. He didn't pull out his phone. Instead, he folded the napkin, sliding it into his jacket pocket like it was evidence of something bigger. Brandon tried to recover, filling the silence with more of his booming laugh. What? You all act like she said something important. She's just staff. But his voice carried less force now, more desperation. His entourage gave thin smiles, unwilling to challenge him but unwilling to laugh again either. The shift was subtle but undeniable. Brandon Hale, for the first time in memory, was no longer the center of control. In the break room, Sophia sat with her head in her hands. Ellie burst through the door, phone clutched tight. Sophia, you need to see this. Sophia frowned. What? Ellie thrust the phone in front of her. The clip had already gathered thousands of views, comments flooding in. Her composure is unreal. This is dignity. This is strength. That man should be ashamed. Sophia blinked at the screen, the weight of it hitting her all at once. She'd spoken for herself, for once, but somehow, it had spoken for everyone else too. Jake stormed in, eyes wild. What the hell is going on? Do you know how much trouble this is going to cause? Ellie slipped the phone behind her back. Trouble for who? She shot back. Because from where I'm standing, she's the only one who came out of this looking good. Jake glared at her, then at Sophia. This isn't about looking good. This is about keeping your job. He jabbed a finger at Sophia. Clean yourself up and stay invisible the rest of the night. If Brandon asks for you again, I'll make sure you're nowhere near that terrace. But as he stormed out again, Sophia caught Ellie's grin. Invisible? Honey, you're trending. By the time Sophia returned to the floor, whispers had spread. Guests glanced at her with curiosity, some even with quiet admiration. Brandon noticed his jaw tightening. His voice rose, louder than necessary, desperate to reclaim the spotlight. Another bottle, he barked, slamming his empty glass down. His eyes flicked toward Sophia, daring her to approach, but Jake intercepted. Of course, sir. Right away. Clara smirked behind her phone, whispering to another influencer at the table. The internet's eating him alive already. Ethan simply folded his arms, waiting, his gaze shifting between Brandon and Sophia with the calm patience of someone who knew exactly how this night would end. That night, the buzz around the club was electric. Staff clustered in corners, whispering about the video. Guests lingered longer, pretending to enjoy dessert while sneaking glances at their phones. Sophia, standing in the shadows near the kitchen entrance, overheard one guest murmur, "That girl's braver than half the people I know." Another replied, "Hale looked like a fool. About time someone put him in his place." Her chest tightened. She wasn't used to being talked about, at least not like this. But the words didn't feel heavy, they felt freeing. Later, when she slipped out the back exit to catch her bus, her phone buzzed endlessly in her pocket. She finally pulled it out, scrolling through a sea of messages from strangers she didn't know. You didn't just stand up for yourself, you stood up for all of us who've been talked down to. Your 10 words said more than anything else could. I hope you know you changed something tonight. She stopped walking, standing under the glow of a street lamp, the cool night pressing against her. For the first time in years, Sophia Morales realized her words had carried farther than she ever imagined. And somewhere across the city, Brandon Hale sat in the back of a black SUV, phone in hand, watching the same clip. His jaw clenched, his reflection in the glass window distorted by passing headlights. For the first time in a long time, he had no words at all. Sophia lay awake that night, her tiny apartment quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. The glow from her phone lit the ceiling as messages poured in faster than she could read them. She had never been the center of anything before, not a headline, not a conversation, not even in her own family. But here she was, a waitress whose name strangers were typing like she mattered. Her mother's old voice message blinked on the screen. Sophia pressed play, hearing the soft warmth. Mija, don't let anyone tell you you're less than them. People forget who feeds them, who keeps them standing tall. Don't you forget. Sophia smiled through the ache, whispering into the empty room, you'd laugh at this, wouldn't you? Her phone buzzed again, Ellie's name flashing. She answered. You're on the news, Ellie blurted, her voice bubbling with excitement. Not a clip. The news. They're talking about you on late-night TV. Sophia sat up. What? I'm serious. Ethan Cross tweeted it. The Ethan Cross. He wrote, hold on, let me read it. Strength isn't loud. It's 10 words from someone with nothing to prove. It's got 500,000 likes already. Sophia pressed a hand to her forehead, her pulse racing. Ellie, I didn't mean for any of this. I know you didn't, Ellie said gently. But maybe that's why it matters. The following morning, Sophia's shift began like any other, except it didn't. By the time she stepped onto the club's grounds, she noticed the stares. Members who once breezed past staff without a glance now turned their heads. Some offered nods, others whispers of, that's her. Jake was waiting at the back entrance, his expression stormy. Do you have any idea what's happening right now? Sophia braced herself. If you're firing me. Firing you? He rubbed the back of his neck, torn between frustration and disbelief. Sophia, the board wants a meeting. With you. This afternoon. Her heart stumbled. The board? Why? Because, Jake muttered, they don't know if they should be apologizing to Hale or thanking you for giving this place the best publicity it's had in years. He gestured vaguely toward the main hall. The phones haven't stopped ringing. Reporters. Sponsors. Everyone wants to know if you'll make a statement. Sophia's breath caught. A statement? She hadn't even figured out how to explain it to herself yet. By noon, the terrace looked different. The chatter wasn't just about wine and business deals. It was about her. Guests showed each other the clip, laughing at Brandon's stunned silence. Staff who used to keep their heads down now moved with a strange buoyancy, as though Sophia had cracked a window open and let real air in. Ellie passed Sophia at the side station, her grin wide. You're a legend. Do you know how many people are quoting you online? People are making shirts already. Shirts. Sophia shook her head, dazed. This doesn't feel real. Real enough that Ethan Cross is sitting out there again, Ellie whispered. Sophia glanced across the terrace. Sure enough, Ethan was at a small table by himself, notebook open, his calm gaze occasionally flicking toward her. The board meeting was held in a mahogany-lined room that smelled faintly of cigars. Sophia sat at one end of the long table, hands folded tightly in her lap. Across from her, a row of well-dressed board members whispered to each other before one of them, a gray-haired woman named Margaret, finally spoke. Ms. Morales, you understand why you're here. Sophia nodded. Because I embarrassed a guest. Because you spoke truthfully in a moment most people would have cowered, Margaret corrected. She leaned forward. Half of us believe you should be disciplined for breaking protocol. The other half believes you may have saved this institution from being defined by his arrogance instead of our standards. Another board member, a man with sharp features, interjected. The world is watching and they're watching through you. That makes us nervous. Sophia swallowed hard. I didn't ask for any of this. She paused, searching for the words. I just wanted him to know he couldn't take my dignity. The room fell quiet. Margaret's eyes softened. Sometimes dignity is exactly what the world needs to see. When Sophia stepped out of the meeting, the afternoon light poured across the corridor. Ethan Cross was waiting by the lobby, his notebook tucked under his arm. You handled that well, he said simply. Sophia blinked. You were listening? Not listening, he corrected. I was waiting. For you. She frowned. Why? Because, Ethan said, you reminded everyone last night that respect isn't something money buys. It's something you carry. And people need to hear that from you, not just watch it in a 30-second clip. Sophia shifted uneasily. I'm not a speaker. I'm a waitress. Ethan shook his head. You're someone who stood up when the rest of us didn't. That's rarer than you think. That evening, Brandon Hale returned. His arrival was quieter this time. No booming laugh, no entourage spilling across the terrace. Just him, alone, jaw tight, shoulders stiff. Every eye followed as he sat at the same table, his presence heavier now than the night before. Sophia noticed Jake pale, half ready to hide her in the kitchen again. But before he could, Brandon raised his hand, not to snap, not to summon, but to request. Her, he said flatly. I want her serving me. The room froze. Jake's eyes darted between them, then reluctantly nodded. Sophia. I'll handle it, she said softly. Her steps toward Brandon's table felt longer than the entire terrace. She stopped at his side, tray balanced, her voice calm. What would you like this evening? Brandon stared at her, his smirk gone. For once, he wasn't in control. Just water. She poured it, setting the glass down gently. He didn't touch it. He only studied her, his eyes restless. You made me look like a fool, he muttered. Sophia kept her tone even. I didn't make you look like anything. Your words did that. The honesty cut sharper than any insult could. Brandon leaned back, exhaling through his nose. For a moment, he seemed smaller, stripped of the arrogance that once filled every corner of the room. Around them, guests watched, hushed. Clara wasn't there to record, no entourage to laugh. Just a man and a woman, power reversed. At last, Brandon lifted the glass, sipped once, then stood. Without another word, he left, the sound of his footsteps echoing against the marble. Later that night, as Sophia clocked out, Ellie intercepted her with wide eyes. You won't believe this. She shoved her phone forward. The clip of Brandon leaving had already surfaced. Someone had filmed it from another table. The caption read, When silence is louder than money. Sophia let out a breath, her chest both heavy and light at once. She didn't chase fame, didn't want headlines. She only wanted to keep her dignity. Yet somehow, she had become a symbol in the process. Weeks later, Sophia sat in a small coffee shop across from Ethan Cross. He had convinced her to meet, to talk not as a journalist to a subject, but as two people caught in the same storm. You know, people still quote you, he said, sipping his coffee. I serve with respect. You speak only to be cruel. It's showing up on protest signs, in classrooms, even in speeches. Sophia shook her head, laughing softly. All from 10 words? All from 10 words, Ethan confirmed. But really, it's from the woman who said them. Sophia stared out the window, the city alive beyond the glass. She thought of her mother's voice, the bills waiting at home, the shift she'd return to tomorrow. She hadn't become wealthy, hadn't left her life behind. But something inside her had shifted forever. For the first time, she realized she wasn't invisible. If this story moved you, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs a little courage today, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Now I want to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. I love seeing how far these stories travel.